Hi again. A good next step is to do the socket, the IC socket, which is labeled U1. There is an orientation. We're not going to place the chip yet. We're going to actually do that later. But make sure there's a little notch on the IC socket that points to one direction, and it will match the notch on the silkscreen on the circuit board. And we just push that in. If the pins aren't completely straight, they do bend occasionally from pushing them in and out of the foam. So just make sure that they're all good, and all the pins should stick through the board. If one does not, then it's probably bent. Pull it out, fix it, do it again. With the switch, make sure that it points away from the board. That's important, or else you won't be able to turn it on, right? Well, yeah, it'll only go in one way. Also, another good part to do right now is the LED. The LED has a flat spot on one side that corresponds to the flat spot on the marker on the circuit board. Also, the flat side is the shorter pin of the two, and it'll correspond to the square hole. If that helps, go ahead and push that through. And then we can also place the capacitor, the C7. It's the little 10 microfarad electrolytic capacitor. Again, be aware of the polarity. The minus bar, the white mark on the cap, corresponds to the negative terminal. Also, it's the short pin, so we're going to make sure that that is opposite of the positive marker. So in this case, it's pointing towards the switch. And push it in, and then same deal as before. I'm going to use tape to hold the parts in, and I'm going to solder them. Alrighty, folks. Something I should have mentioned before for the last step, you don't have to cut the pins on the switch or the IC socket, which is nice, and you don't have to cut the pins on the pins. So that's kind of nice as well. So next step, we're going to place the big capacitor, the C5. This is the 1000 microfarad. It's 10 volt, and we're going to place the other transistor, the 2907, and also we're going to place the potentiometer, which is R9. So be aware of the direction. It'll make it a lot easier later if you get the direction right. There are little tabs on the potentiometer that correspond to the tabs on the silkscreen on the circuit board. Also, the little brass knob is going to point inward towards the IC socket. With the electrolytic capacitor, it's important, the polarity, right? So we have the black bar with the minus signs. That's the negative terminal. Also, it's the short pin. That needs to point away from the positive mark on the circuit board, so that we know the minus bar needs to point towards the front of the board, or towards the IC socket. So we'll put that in there, and we have the transistor. Transistor pattern's going to match the mask on the board. So the flat side is going to point towards the front of the board or away from the switch. So round part towards the switch. Alright, outstanding. I'll see you next video.